Part 1. Silence in Space. My name is David Lynch. I'm 42 years old. Not the director, the astronaut. Though in many ways, what I live through feels like a script no sane screenwriter would dare to pitch that I've spent nearly half my life. In training, engineering, flight simulations, medical procedures, psychological endurance tests. I've been submerged in freezing tanks, spun in centrifuges until I puked, and spent months in isolation chambers with nothing but a notepad and a digital clock ticking down the hours. All for this. A 6-month mission aboard Helios 3, a cutting-edge modular space station orbiting Earth at 400 kilometers altitude, joint operation between NASA and ESA. My crew, Dr. Emma Vasquez, a biosystems specialist from Spain, and Commander Ryan Hale, ex-Air Force, tough as titanium, but with a dry wit that somehow made you feel safer. We were the first human crew to set foot on Helios 3. And by the end of our stay, we weren't so sure we were alone. The aliens. October 14, 2025. Cape Canaveral. The morning of launch day feels almost too calm. You'd expect chaos, alarms, last-minute checklists, shouting through radios. But instead, everything is slow, sterile. Everyone speaks in hushed tones, as if afraid to wake some sleeping giant. When they strap you into your seat and the countdown begins, your brain goes completely quiet. You stop being a person. You become a passenger inside a rocket that weighs over 400 tons and burns fuel at 15,000 pounds per second. You're just along for the ride. The launch was clean. A perfect arc. We felt the kick as we detached from the final stage and entered low Earth orbit. You're weightless almost immediately, and despite years of training, it still makes your stomach lurch and your heart race. When I looked out that tiny porthole and saw Earth below us, blue, round, peaceful, I felt it. That thing astronauts try to describe but never quite can. The overview effect. You realize how small everything is, how quiet, how fragile. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. Arrival Helios 3 appeared in our field of view on day 2. She looked like a mechanical insect, all spindly arms and dark panels, solar arrays stretching like antennae. She wasn't beautiful, but she was ours. We docked manually. Commander Hale insisted. Auto-docking is for tourists, he muttered, hands gripping the controls. Emma rolled her eyes, but secretly we were all glad he took the wheel. There's something reassuring about the human touch when you're moving 28,000 kilometers per hour. We entered through the main airlock, each of us checking our oxygen twice. Standard procedure. The station was in standby mode, fully automated for the last 97 days, running on solar. The systems came online smoothly. Artificial gravity toggled on in the core module, oxygen recycled, lights warmed the cold steel corridors. Everything was fine, but I swear to you, from the moment we stepped inside, I felt it. A presence. At first, I chalked it up to adrenaline. You're on edge, overstimulated. Every sound echoes. Every vibration feels personal. And space has this way of magnifying your own thoughts, like being locked inside your own skull. Still, something wasn't right at the WHRS 3 nights in. I woke up to a low hum, not mechanical. Not like a failing vent or power fluctuation. It was human, like a voice murmuring in the dark, too low to understand, but steady. Rhythmic. I floated out of my sleeping pod, heart pounding, eyes scanning the narrow hallway between crew quarters. Nothing. The lights were in night mode, a soft red glow that made everything feel underwater. I made my way to the bridge module, careful not to wake the others. The sound was gone. I checked the comms console. No incoming signals. No logs. I flipped through the audio surveillance files. Nothing out of the ordinary. I told myself it was a dream. It had to be. A stress hallucination. Maybe. But the next morning, Emma looked at me differently. Not alarmed, but wary. Over rehydrated coffee, she asked, "Did you hear anything strange last night?" I froze. What kind of strange? She hesitated, then smiled awkwardly. Never mind. I probably dreamt it. She hadn't. The log on day 6. While running diagnostics on the environmental systems, I stumbled across a hidden folder in the main terminal, buried under maintenance logs. It shouldn't have been there. It wasn't part of the official file tree. Inside, a single video file. Date stamped. August 3rd, 2025, weeks before we arrived. But no human had been on Helios 3 before us. Not officially. The video was grainy. Infrared. Taken from an internal camera near the Science BAY.AT first, it was static. Then a shape, moving awkwardly in 0G. Humanoid, but with limbs that bent strangely. It floated past the lens slowly, as if dragging something behind it. No suit, no helmet, no ID tags, just a figure. In the dark that I slammed the terminal shut that I didn't tell Emma. I didn't tell Hale that I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to believe it myself. Pressure DAROPS Day 9, T213 Greenwich Mean Time. A pressure drop in the lower storage module triggered an alert, standard procedure. We suited up. Commander Hale led the inspection. Emma stayed on the bridge. The leak was minor, a misaligned seal on the container latch. Or so we thought. But, just as we were about to finish the patch, the motion sensor activated .1 red blink. Then another. Then another. Hale turned to me slowly. Are you moving? No, we both froze. The motion pings were coming from inside the station, just a few meters down the corridor. In the dark section we hadn't entered yet that we stood there in silence, watching the screen. The signal moved, then stopped, then vanished. End of part. When I didn't sleep that night. None of us did. In space, silence isn't peace, it's a warning. And something on Helios 3 was no longer silent. Part 2. Don't follow the light. When you're trained as an astronaut, you're taught to trust the data. Sensors don't lie. Algorithms don't hallucinate. But deep down, every astronaut knows space doesn't play fair. It messes with your mind, with your sense of time, direction, and sanity. What happened on Helios 3 wasn't a malfunction. It wasn't sleep deprivation or low oxygen delusions. Something, or someone, was aboard that station with us, and whatever it was, it didn't want us to leave the hollow vicinity. After the motion alert on day 9, we kept it quiet. Hill didn't file the full report. He claimed it was an equipment test. Malfunctioning actuator, he said into the recorder. But I saw his hands tremble when he typed. And we spent the day running scans through the internal cameras. Thermal, EM signatures, air displacement. Nothing. The system showed the entire station clear. No movement. No heat signatures outside our own. But then, Emma discovered something strange. She was working in the hydroponics bay when she noticed that one of the water flow sensors had been disabled. Not failed. Disabled. She called me over. Look, the bypass circuit was rerouted manually. I stared at the data. Someone, or something, had physically accessed the controls and rewired the irrigation lines. There was no alert, no logged maintenance activity. What's it feeding? I asked. She looked at me, pale. Nothing. The water is being vented into the unused module. The one we hadn't opened yet. The dark module, the door that belonged on Helios 3, the eastern wing was sealed off. Officially, it wasn't finished. A storage wing. Spare panels, prototype equipment, old lab gear. But that night, I went there alone. I didn't tell Hale. I didn't tell Emma. I couldn't sleep. I had to see it for myself. The hatch was cold. Unusually cold. The hallway lights flickered as I approached. The closer I got, the heavier I felt, like the air was thicker. Pressurized. I hovered by the door and placed my palm on it. It felt like it breathed, not literally. But there was a faint, rhythmic vibration in the metal, almost like a pulse. I backed away. Suddenly, the hallway light shut off completely. Just me and the emergency backup, a weak red glow. And in that moment, I heard something on the other side of the door. A scratch, then another, slow, deliberate, as if someone, or something, was tracing their fingers across the metal from inside. I floated away without looking back. I saw her. Day 11. Emma hadn't spoken. All morning, she sat in the bridge module, staring at the rotating Earth through the observation glass. Unmoving. I brought her protein paste and a warm packet of tea. She didn't react. Emma, did something happen? She turned, eyes glossy. I saw her. Who? She didn't blink. My sister. I froze. Emma's sister had died 6 years ago. Car accident in Madrid. Emma wore her bracelet every day. A small silver loop, barely noticeable. She was floating. Outside the station. No suit. No oxygen. But she was alive. And she smiled at me. Emma, that's not possible. I know it's not possible. She gripped my wrist. But I saw her. Clearer than I see you right now. I didn't know what to say. Hallucinations in space aren't uncommon. Prolonged isolation. Confined environments. But something about the way Emma spoke, it wasn't confusion. It was certainty. And then she added something I still can't explain. She told me not to follow the light. Unseen FLES on day 12, I went back into the system. I needed answers. If there was something hidden in the core logs, I was going to find it. Using a bypass protocol, something I learned years ago from a Russian tech during joint training, I unlocked the archive directory. It took 40 minutes. Inside, I found 14 deleted video logs, all marked AUTX. They weren't in English. They were in French. I played the first one. A woman, mid-30s, floating in the dark. Blood on her lip. Her voice shook. Le module ni répond plus. Quelques chose est dans les mœurs. Il prend. Nos voix. Il prend nos souvenirs. I don't speak fluent French, but I understood enough. The module is no longer responding. Something is in the walls. It's taking our voices. It's taking our memories. There was no record of a French test crew on Helios 3. None in NASA's logs. None in ESA's either. But clearly, someone had been here before us, and they never left the oxygen Daropide 13. 04:00 GMT to 8 emergency klaxon blared through the station. Oxygen levels dropped 12% in less than 90 seconds that we scrambled to seal hatches and isolate the leak. Hale shouted orders while Emma floated rapidly toward the air filtration module. That's when we found it, that a panel had been removed. Not blown open. Unscrewed. Carefully. Deliberately. And behind it, in the crawl space, was a mass of tubing and wires, twisted together like veins. It pulsed. It was WET. It wasn't ours. The shadow in the Obisavant later that night, I reviewed the external observation camera footage from 02:00 to 03:30. And I saw it, frame by frame, just for a second, a figure standing on the outside of the station, clinging to the solar array, unmoving, watching. No suit. No helmet. A silhouette, vaguely human, but elongated. Wrong proportions. As if someone had guessed what a human looks like and got it almost right. It stayed there for 47 seconds. Then it vanished. No EVA alerts. No pressure changes. Nothing triggered the alarm. Just gone. I can't feel myself. Day 14. Hale wasn't himself. He became paranoid. Irritable. He accused me of hiding things, which, to be fair, I was. But so was he. He started talking to himself, whispering, pacing back and forth. He refused to sleep in the crew quarters and instead locked himself in the supply closet with a stun baton. Emma begged me to help him, but I wasn't doing much better that night. I woke up and couldn't feel my body, not numbness. It was like I wasn't in my body at all, like I was floating somewhere outside the hull, looking in, watching myself sleep. And in that moment, I saw someone else in the sleeping chamber. With me, another me. Eyes open, smiling. Part 3. They're inside. Space doesn't kill you directly. It whispers, waits, and then makes you doubt your own mind. By the 15th day on Helios 3, I knew none of us were coming back the same. I just wasn't sure we were coming back at all. Dead Signalcy tried contacting Earth again. The main comms array was operational. The uplink light blinked green. Everything on paper worked, but all we got was static. Pure white noise. That we attempted direct pulse relays, backup satellites, emergency pings. No response. That shouldn't have been possible. There were 3 different channels that should have guaranteed signal redundancy. And yet, nothing. Emma looked at me. What if we're not broadcasting at all? What do you mean? She whispered. What if something's intercepting it before it leaves the station? The whispering ROM later that day. I returned to the sealed module. I had to see what was inside. I told Emma to wait outside the hatch with the emergency tether. I clipped in, unlocked the wheel, and the door hissed open. The lights inside flickered on. Automatically. That wasn't supposed to happen. It was a lab, or what was left of one. The walls were scorched. Panels torn out. Cables hung from the ceiling like vines. Some were melted, fused into the walls. And then, I heard it. A whisper. Not a sound through the radio. Not an echo. A real voice. Close. Right next to my ear. Why did you come back? I spun. No one. But I swear on my life. It sounded like me. The JOL in the far corner of the lab. I found a floating clipboard sealed in plastic. Inside was a handwritten log. French. Again that I translated pieces aloud to Emma once I got out. Day 31. We stopped sleeping on day 26. Day 33. I can hear them breathing through the walls. Day 35. Julian walked into the airlock without a suit. He smiled the whole way. It ended with one final line, written over and over, scratched into the paper so hard it tore through the plastic. Ils sont déjà à l'intérieur. They are already inside. Hale's final OR Hale snapped on day 16. He sealed himself in the central hub and disabled navigation. Emma tried to override, but the manual controls had been fused that we could hear him talking through the intercom. We're not going home. There's no home left. We brought it with us. You don't understand. We're copies. Echoes. They're using us to grow something. He paused. I saw my own autopsy report in the NAV log. It was dated next week. Emma cried. I tried to stay calm, but Hale's voice was getting distant, warped, like he was moving away from the mic, but still broadcasting directly into our heads. Then, I'm going to burn it out. I'm going to burn everything out. A second later, a soft explosion rocked the hub. Body count 2. We reached the hub 5 minutes later. The smell of scorched circuits and protein powder filled the air. Hale's body was floating, limbs limp, suit half sealed. He had used a thermal cutter to open the comms panel. He hadn't been trying to sabotage us, he had been trying to cut something out of the wiring, something that pulsed. Whatever it was, he failed. We never found his faceplate. His helmet was cracked open like a melon. Emma vomited in 0G at night. Emma saw her sister again. She didn't tell me at first. She just floated in the observatory, whispering. Her eyes glazed, pupils fully dilated. I tried to pull her back, but she resisted. She says I'm not supposed to be here, that this place is just a mirror. I gripped her shoulder. Emma, we need to focus. We can't trust anything we see now. She looked at me. Her voice was not her own. The copies need bodies. Yours is still warm. I froze. She blinked. And just like that, she was herself again. No memory of what she'd just said. The organics on day 17. I found something beneath the cryo BAY.IT looked like a control relay. But it had no wiring, no screws, and it was growing. The surface was veined, like muscle tissue. When I touched it, it twitched. I took a biopsy sample with gloved forceps. Inside, carbon structures fused with silicon strands. A hybrid. Half living, half tech. Engineered by who? The dark SPIC had 300 hours. The external alarm tripped. One of the solar panels had stopped rotating. I went EVA to fix it. That's when I saw it. Just beyond the station, maybe 300 meters off, was a black sphere. Floating. No markings. No light. A perfect matte black. My helmet display glitched. Readouts dropped to 0. I couldn't feel my hands. My limbs felt reversed. And for just a second, I saw another version of myself in my visor. Not a reflection. A mirror that didn't match. Then it vanished. When I got back inside, Emma was gone. The airlocky found the outer airlock open. 1 of the emergency suits was missing. The last camera feed showed Emma standing in front of the open hatch. She wasn't moving. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. And behind her, a shape, blurred, shimmering, like heat on metal. Then static. I'm not Alanites day 18. I'm the only one left. But something still breathes in this station. Sometimes. I hear it in the walls. Sometimes in my own chest. And I'm beginning to wonder, am I still me? Or just the last usable body? Part 4. The last transmission. You can't escape the void, because sometimes the void comes back with you. Status. UNKNOWN. There's no more day or night. No schedule. No time. I disabled the internal clocks myself. They were wrong anyway. Did I think I've been awake for 5, 10, maybe 15 days straight? Doesn't matter. The AI doesn't talk anymore. It just hums. A low mechanical whine, like tinnitus from the soul. I'm still orbiting Titan. But Helios 3 is no longer functioning. Most of the oxygen has bled into space. Food rations are gone. CO2 scrubbers are shot. But I'm not dying. I should be. But I'm not the thing in the glass. There's something in the cryo chamber glass. It doesn't reflect me. IT watches. IT mimics me when I move, but slightly out of sync, like it's learning. Yesterday, I stared at it for 3 hours straight. No blinking. IT smiled before I did. The backup. Emma left something behind. A hidden directory in the emergency beacon's buffer drive that I decrypted it. Video logs. Journals. Internal scans of the station. Point one file was named memory_loop_final.core. I played it that Emma's face appeared, recorded just before she disappeared. If you're seeing this, I'm not here anymore. And if you're still here, then listen. She looked exhausted. Her voice cracked. This isn't a station. It's a trap, a test, a containment facility. Maybe all three. But one thing is clear. Helios 3 was never supposed to be found again. They brought something back from Titan's surface. I don't know if it was alive or if we made it. Alive by observing it. It doesn't want to kill us. It wants to copy us. She leaned in close. You're not you anymore, are you? The video ended that I checked the timestamp that it was recorded 2 hours into the mission. The descent one last shuttle remained that I'd avoided it for days. I knew going back to Earth might doom everyone else, but I was breaking that I'd begun seeing. 2 of everything. 2 sets of hands. 2 suits. 2 versions of my voice echoing when I spoke. One night, I woke up in the med bay, with sutures across my abdomen and no memory of how I got there. The AI began whispering again. Go home. The vessel is ready. You're clean. You're new. I sealed the core lab, burned the organic circuits with a plasma cutter. Then, I climbed into the return capsule and launched at RNK. During re-entry, I blacked out. When I woke, I was floating in a recovery bay. Outside, bright lights, clean air, the hum of machines I recognized. Then a face appeared. My own, looking at me, speaking softly. You made it. We're going to fix you. Debriefing was held for 19 days in isolation. They scanned my body daily. Psychological exams, blood work, even quantum, resonance imaging, whatever that means. I told them everything about Hale, Emma, the voices, the mirror images, the growing circuits. They never asked about the sphere. I finally asked, am I infected? The lead scientist, a woman named Dr. Lin, smiled kindly. No, you're perfectly healthy. But we had to be sure this time. The archive ROM on day 20. They moved me to what they called post-mission decompression housing. It was a small apartment inside a compound. Comfortable, quiet, full of surveillance. I pretended not to notice that I found a locked door near the elevator point one night. It was left open. Inside, rows of capsules, just like the cryopods. Each one held a person. Each person was me. Some asleep, some missing limbs. One turned to look as I entered and smiled with Emma's eyes. That I ran the Calem, not supposed to be writing this. I smuggled a transmitter from a diagnostics panel. I don't know how long I have before they trace it. They think I'm compliant. Now, smiling, taking the pills, answering their questions. But every day, when I wake up, I see someone else's face in the mirror. Just for a second, he looks happy to be here. I'm not. So, if you're receiving this transmission, and you work for NASA, ESA, JAXA, Roscosmos, whoever, shut down the Helios program. Burn every copy. Seal the data vaults. And most of all, don't let the return capsule land, because the one you think you brought back, he's already been replaced, and he's smiling for you right now.